Hello there, this is Africa News. I'm Rochelle Ferguson with the top stories on the continent. Firstly, bye-bye Black Stars. The Ghanaian football team is out of the World Cup after a 2-1 defeat by Portugal. They're not leaving alone. Portugal is also eliminated. We cross live to our correspondent in Accra. Dominated by fears of a rise in extremist groups, African leaders gather in Equatorial Guinea for a summit in which security is topping the agenda. And 54 years of independence, Madagascar marks the end of the colonial period on this day in 1960. But first to our top story, Ghana has been eliminated from the World Cup following a 2-1 defeat by Portugal. Cristiano Ronaldo scored the winning goal in the second half after the Black Stars' John Boy handed Portugal the lead in an own goal. Despite Asamoah Gyan heading in an equaliser, Ghana failed to secure a place in the last 16. Nor, for that matter, did Portugal. They too are out. Well, let's cross live now to France 24's Caterina Vitozzi, who's in Accra for us. Caterina, good evening to you. How is the news that the Black Stars are out of the World Cup sinking in there?
Well, I think a picture paints 1,000 words with regards to that. I'm at a fan park. There's a big screen where fans were watching the football. There's music, but there's one thing missing, and that is fans. And in fact, many left before the final whistle in the 80th minute, as you mentioned, when Cristiano Ronaldo took Portugal ahead to end the Black Stars' hopes of qualifying to the knockout stages. Hundreds had turned up hoping to see their team progress to the knockout round. However, I did manage to have a word with a few of them before they quit the fan park. Many were criticising the selection of the coach, Stephen Appiah, saying a strong enough side wasn't put out for that first crucial game against the USA. So clearly lots of disappointed fans this evening.
OK, so the music there is clearly misleading then, Caterina. Scandal, though, hasn't been far from the Black Stars camp at the tournament, with 2 top players being sent home.
Yeah, that news that Kevin Prince Boateng and Suleiman Tari, who are 2 absolutely crucial players in the Black Stars squad, that they were involved in some sort of an altercation. Kevin Prince Boateng with the team coach and Suleiman Tari with an executive from the Ghana Football Association. Fans here very disappointed. They think that they may have affected not only the ability of the squad to face Portugal this evening, but also the mood of the general team. However, that isn't the only scandal, as you say. The Ghana Football Association itself this week has had to fend off accusations of match fixing, and you had some doubt whether the players would even take to the pitch this Thursday against Portugal over a pay dispute which was only resolved when $3 million in cash was flown from Ghana to Brazil. So there's a lot of disappointment, a lot of suspicion with regards to whether the Black Stars were in the right frame of mind for this tournament. Obviously, players have a lot to reflect on, so too the Ghana Football Association, but really your heart's got to go out to the fans who really were hoping that Ghana would proceed to their third knockout stages of the World Cup.
OK, Caterina Vitozzi reporting for us from Accra. Thank you very much. Next, the UN says that environmental crime is financing criminal and terrorist groups. A new report released by the body on Tuesday estimates that the insurgent group Al-Shabaab makes millions of dollars per year from illegal charcoal alone. Shirley Sipmore has the details for us.
These women carry firewood to sell it. The branches will be carbonized and transformed into charcoal. This business is illegal. It's even an environmental crime. But these villagers say they have no other choice but to take part in it.
We don't have agricultural land we can plant, as there is no water. So we opt to ensure our survival with the trees that exist. That's our cash crop.
Impoverished Kenyans are not the only ones making money from the charcoal traffic. According to the UN and Interpol, the business has brought millions to the Somali Al-Shabaab militants. The report released at the UN's first environmental assembly in Nairobi says environmental criminality generates $213 billion every year across the world. The Al-Shabaab are making up to $56 million from the charcoal traffic every year.
In particular, Al-Shabaab is linked to extracting taxes from illegal charcoal trade that is often produced in Somalia, but also in neighboring countries and as far away as the Democratic Republic of Congo, and then channeled through Somalia also for export.
Crimes exploiting nature have mushroomed in recent years. They include the poaching of elephants, animal trafficking, illegal fishing and logging. They threaten species and also African economies, which are losing precious resources.
Madagascar is celebrating 54 years of independence this Thursday. The large island saw the end of the colonial period on June 26, 1960. But this year, the anniversary has special significance as the country is close to exiting a 5-year political crisis. Gaël Boga and Shelley Sitborn report.
Madagascar has been celebrating for 48 hours. Fireworks and the military parade have become a tradition on the national holiday. But this year is different. The country has had an elected president for 5 months. The regime of transition is part of the past. Yet people still feel frustrated.
People are poor. There has been no impact on our lives since the new regime.
Generally, we still see the consequences of the previous transition regime, that's to say, the long crisis. So in 5 months, it's difficult to change all of that.
During his official speech to the nation, President Eri tried to justify himself.
There is a saying in Madagascar that says, "The one who achieves his goal is not the one who runs, but the one who keeps walking." So you can't govern a country by running.
President Eri says he's determined to rebuild the country ruined by decades of political instability. Yet no law has been adopted in parliament since he took office.
African leaders have gathered in Equatorial Guinea for a 2-day summit dominated by fears of a rise in extremist groups across the continent. From the Sahel to Nigeria, Central and East Africa, armed Islamist groups are sowing terror by carrying out attacks on a near daily basis. Well, as the threat of terrorism continues to drift across the continent's porous borders, President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta now says he fully supports Algeria's mediation in northern Mali.
If our brothers offer to mediate and bring us closer, ultimately this can only be positive. That's why we welcome this Algerian initiative, which has already gathered in Algeria all of the armed groups, those who have signed the Ouagadougou Agreement and also those who haven't. That's a very good thing.
Well, for more on this summit, France 24's Mark Pellman joins me from Malabo. Mark, good evening to you. Now, this was supposed to be a summit focusing on agriculture and food security, but it's clear that combating Islamist extremists is topping the agenda.
Yes, absolutely. This was about food security, about agriculture, about really trying to plan ahead for the continent, but the continent's crisis has hijacked the agenda. Here, from Kenya to Nigeria, from Mali to the Central African Republic, the crisis, the security issues, the terrorist threat have been on top of the agenda and on top of everyone's mind, as we just heard. The Malian president has talked to several heads of state today, and they've all told me the same thing. Yes, we need to tackle the issue one by one, but also collectively, and this is really what has been lacking. The African Union has been saying for years we need really to come up with a collective response to those challenges, but this has never happened, and clearly there was a lot of worried looks today of heads of state heading in or heading out of this summit in Malabo and Equatorial Guinea.
So many African leaders have gathered for this summit, but the star has proved to be Egypt's leader, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, who's marked his country's comeback to continental politics.
Yes, clearly this was a triumphant day for the Egyptian president, who recently received a visit of Secretary of State John Kerry. He then went to Algeria, and today he was feted by his peers when he delivered a speech in which he denounced very vehemently the threat of terrorism. And then on the sidelines of his meetings, which are often more interesting than the meeting itself, heads of state were lining up to have bilateral meetings with the Egyptian strongman. So clearly this was really a very important day for for Egypt, it was also a way of coming back in a very forceful way in the African Union. Egypt had been suspended after the arrival of Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, but after his election, he's now been welcomed back by his peers, and so it was really a show of force today by the Egyptian leader.
OK, Mark Perlman reporting for us from Malabo. Thank you. All right, well, your Africa team's back in about 45 minutes' time. Up next with more international news is Mark Owen.